All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to ask everyone to mute their microphones just so we can eliminate the background noise. And if you guys notice anyone else trying to get in the chat, feel free to guide them into it. I guess it can be kind of confusing. So thank you guys for coming. My name's Joshua. You guys know me as Sparky. And we are here with Caleb. I want to say hi, Caleb, if you can still hear
Going, everybody.
So tonight we're just going over a weekly market analysis. We're going to discuss news, give some projections, and shout out a couple stocks that we think are going to be good either this week or in the future. So with that being said, I do have to give you guys a real quick disclaimer. Caleb nor I are licensed professionals. We're just some guys on the internet who kind of know what they're talking about. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. Should be able to see my screen now. You guys see that?
Sir.
Right.
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool. So the first thing that we're going to talk about here, pull this up. So this is the SPY chart. Caleb's going to go ahead and talk about this. You there, Caleb?
I'm here. I was just waiting on you.
All right, yeah, go ahead. It's all yours.
The chart up?
Oh, hang on. This stream. There we go. Now you should be able to see it. Can you see it?
Okay.
There you go.
I can see it. Just like a lot of weeks, we like to start out with charting stuff like SPY and Dow. Before getting into really the charting aspect of it, there's a couple things in the market. Just kind of wanted to go ahead and discuss that are just going to kind of affect the market condition the upcoming week, and we'll kind of see how it's going to apply later on. It's quite a confusing time, and I'll explain with the charting how the fundamentals and the technicals are going to play together and what I'm anticipating. So the U.S. employment rate, as we are going to get into later and look at the articles, is going to be expected to get worse.
I think he has some bad connection. Are you there, Caleb?
At my screen, as soon as you moved it, it just froze on like a half slide between two slides.
Okay, here you go.
If you just want to pop, back to the SPY one. We'll just get into those other things a little bit later. So the market is expected to have a few things going on, like more unemployment numbers coming out. And with that coming out and the market still not being very strong overall, we can see that SPY itself is bouncing at the 61.8% fib range. Between that and the 50%, currently seems like it's rejecting about the 61.8. But if we, and you don't have to quite yet, but if we move into a shorter range, we'll be able to see that starting to push past that 61.8. However, I'm not confident in it continuing to push past that. You can see for quite some time at the 50%, it consolidated over the 1 year chart for quite a while. Whereas right now is bouncing between the 61.8 and the 50%. You go back to the 1 year chart, overall volume for SPY is getting pretty low, can start to signal that it has low consumer confidence. One thing to keep in mind is that bonds are still trading at super low interest rates. They're not paying out very well, and that's and to the way that SPY and the Dow are moving. They're continuing to ascend by all these other negative market factors. So keep those in mind. I still don't think that we are out of bearish market quite yet, although we have been fairly bullish lately. I don't think that recession is over by any means. And I would just say to keep an eye on that. I believe Joshua has charts on Dow, but before we move into that, we can go ahead and talk about a stock that I'm personally interested in. It's gone up quite a bit. It's called VTIQ is the ticker. They are said to be the next Tesla. VTIQ is doing is they're merging with a company called Nikola Corporation. They are starting, I believe they're closing that merger in the first 2 weeks of June. Basically, what they're involved in, Nikola Corporation, is hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. They create freight vehicles and stuff for shipping. So, along with that, they're compared to better or as good as Tesla whenever they were first starting out. Have billion in pre-market order revenues, and I believe they're currently sitting at about 14 or 16. Oh wait, we have it right up there. They're sitting at 1650. Although it's fairly extended, some analysts have said whenever they begin production and actually moving things along, that they might even reach a price target range of $200. Something just to keep an eye on. Go ahead and do your due diligence, research some news on it. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on too, especially if it's being thrown around as Tesla's. It's going to be one of Tesla's competitors. I believe that is all that I have for you guys. I will send out a earnings watch list or an earnings list that was done by Earnings Whispers, I believe, later on, and I will pin it to one of the chats. And those people looking to trade on earnings will kind of know where they're at.
All right, guys. So now we're going to talk about the Dow. But before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys that we do have a YouTube channel up and going, and we release lots of strategies and training tools and learning guides on there. So if you guys have not seen that yet, go ahead and make sure to check out our trading video tutorials. Lots of helpful stuff. And also, if you're interested in becoming a Patreon and getting those one-on-one live trainings, feel free to let us know. Alright, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the Dow here. So this is a 4-hour chart, the same one that I pull up every week, and we can kind of watch how it's grown. So right here, again, this is when that pandemic really hit. Now it has been retracing and going back up, and we can see a continuation of higher lows and higher highs. So if I draw this for you. Okay, now let me make this bigger so you can see it. Okay, so if you guys can see this white line, we can see this pattern here of higher highs and lower lows, which is indicating that the market is recovering. Now, this doesn't mean that it is fully in recovery mode. There's always that possibility of this crashing back down and making a lower retracement. And with the country reopening, not only the United States, but many countries around the world, investors are going to be careful. Big investors are going to be careful. And I recommend that we should all be careful. Unexpected things can happen at any time. Like, for example, a couple days ago, there was a news article that came out about this guy that got ran over by an airplane, and he did indeed die. Now, that is something truly unexpected, but it is going to affect that stock dramatically. We'll probably see it drop pretty low Monday. Now, I think that was I think it was American Airlines. I'm not 100% sure which airline that was. But yeah, so there's lots of unexpected things that can happen throughout the market at any time. So just because we are in this bullish trend right now doesn't mean that that's going to continue. But it does look healthy. Right now we're watching it bounce hopefully up all the way to the 61.8% retracement level right here. We're about halfway there right now. This could take a couple weeks, maybe until almost June is when we may see it hit this retracement level. Now, if it does hit this retracement level and start to climb even further above it, that is when I would say, in my opinion, that the market is recovering and that we did officially hit the bottom. Now, there is a possibility of this coming and hitting this and falling back down, and that is most likely when we would see the bottom if we haven't already. And just be prepared, there's a lot of stuff in the news talking about a second wave of COVID-19 coming later this year. No one really knows when, but if we base the United States on other countries that are further ahead in that timeline, it is expected. So make sure you're trading around that, make sure you're keeping up with the news, and you don't get caught in another big sell-off. All right, so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and look at some news articles here. So this one, we're talking about futures. Basically, futures opened lower today, this Sunday evening, even though it did rally last week. And this is just because a lot of countries are opening and phasing out the stay-at-home orders. Lots of people are scared of the unemployment rate because we can see that right here it says the unemployment rate hit 14.7%, right? And that's a pretty major number. It's a lot of people that are unemployed. So this should affect the market. Now, based on what's been happening and seeing the market rally, even though there is a lot of negative news happening, in my personal opinion, I think this week is going to be very similar to last week. We'll see this come up a little bit, and then we'll see it take another fall down and slowly rally back up to the 61.8% level. So I think it's going to be a good week. There's definitely going to be a lot of opportunity, either for the bulls or for the bears. So it's going to be a good week, and I hope that all of you are ready to make some money this week, because I know I am. And I think that's everything that we have for the market analysis, just some general stuff. There's not been much big news recently, so there's nothing major to cover. But my opinion is that it's going to be not a lot of movement this week, but definitely some movement in both directions. All right, Caleb, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not necessarily. Just some big earnings that I'd like to point out would be something like PayPal or Cisco. We don't really need to go into them too much. I just want to let people know to do their own due diligence on those companies, because they may have outperformed others during this coronavirus pandemic.
All right, well, that's everything for the market analysis. We're now going to open up questions and answers. So if you guys have any questions about certain stocks, drop that in the live training chat, and we'll do our best to answer all of them.